For generations, Miami has been a haven for those fleeing communist tyranny in South Africa. I mean, if you take a look at what's going on in parts of South Africa, look at South Africa, what's going on. Look at South America, what's going on. You know, I'm not going to, we have a G20 meeting in South Africa. South Africa shouldn't even be in the Gs anymore because what's happened there is bad. I'm not going. I told them I'm not going. I'm not going to represent our country there. It shouldn't be there. Take a look at what's happening in different parts of South America. Take a look at what's happening in different parts of the world. But now the Democrats are so extreme that Miami will soon be the refuge for those fleeing communism in New York City. They flee. They flee.
Donald Trump boycotts G20 summit in South Africa. He said that he won't be able to attend the G20 summit in South Africa. And the reasons are, he accused South Africa of human rights abuses against the white minority, Afrikaner community, descendants of Dutch, French, German settlers. He claimed that Afrikaners are being killed and slaughtered, and their lands and farms are being illegally confiscated. He specifically cited the country's land reform expropriation policies as a trigger, the new legislation that makes it easier for the government to expropriate land, okay? Including without compensation in some cases, and as part of addressing historic inequalities. He also said that he labeled the summit being held in South Africa as total disgrace, you know, because of these alleged abuses. He also linked the decision to these larger preferences of hosting the next summit in the U.S. in the U.S. Miami 2026. Okay, so he's simply boycotting the G20 summit because of what I've just told you. Now, let's break it down a little bit here because I think there's things you're supposed to be talking about. Now, first of all, let's talk about G20 summit. What is G20 summit? You know, now it's a major international forum where the world's largest economies meet to discuss and coordinate policies on global economic growth, you know, trade, finance, climate change, and development, and many other things like of the same. So the G20 group, or it's a group of 20 countries, a group of 20, not necessarily countries, also organizations, maybe bodies like the African Union or European Union, depends. It was founded in the year 1999, and after financial crisis in the years of 1990s, it includes 19 countries plus the European Union, representing about 85% of the global GDP, 75% of world trade, and 2/3 of the world's population. Which are the members? Members of the G20 are Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, France, Germany, India, Indonesia, and we have Italy, Japan, Mexico. We have Saudi Arabia, South Africa, South Korea. We also have Turkey, United Kingdom, United States, and the European Union. Okay, now, so the purpose of the G20 summit, each year the heads of state and government meet to coordinate on global economic stability, discuss trade, energy, and climate change policies, address financial crisis and international conflicts, promote development and debt relief, for poor nations. Okay, that is all about G20 summit. So this year, host country, it's going to be South Africa. Dates November 2022. 22nd, 23rd, 2025, and then inclusive growth and African development. Focuses include expanding digital and green economies, reforming global financial institutions like the IMF and the World Bank, and then we have strengthening Africa's role in global trade and innovation. Okay, so why the G20 summit is important, being held in South Africa. It's the first time ever South Africa and the African continent is hosting a G20 summit. It symbolizes Africa's growing importance in global economic and political discussions. It provides platform to push for fair trade terms, climate finance, and debt restructuring for development nations. Okay, that's all about G20 summit. Now, G20 summit, you know what it is. I've break it down for you. And now Donald Trump saying he won't be able to attend. He won't be able to be part of the heads of state who will visit South Africa for the G20 summit. Reason being, South Africans are killing the the white people, the white farmers in Africa. They're saying that genocide is being applied. Genocide is going on in South Africa, and people are being killed at large are the white farmers, the Afrikaners, the minority group in South Africa. But this is claims that Donald Trump has been having for quite some time. It's not the first time. We've had these claims many a times. There was a time even President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, was called to the United States of America, and many people termed it as maybe disrespect, because what happened during this meeting when Cyril Ramaphosa was called to the United States of America, many people didn't like it. How he was handling the president, a whole head of state, people didn't like it, and many people really felt like it was disrespectful of Donald Trump to do that, because he was like mishandling him and trying to play for him videos that are not true and all that, telling him that these are white people being killed in South Africa, it is not good or something like that. He was even trying to play the videos of Julius Malema, trying to say kill the Boer, kill the farmer and all that, and he was like, it is not good,
Alright, come on, sir. Hule, kita, kilame. Hirwata, tamarumo, rumo, hasicha. Where were you when I'm sitting? Where were you when I'm there? So far, skitchy. Emoye, so far, skitchy. Etatin. Kichima, Cyprian Konto Alliance, shoot to kill, Gamaza, kill the poor, the farmer, kill the poor, the farmer, brr, pa, brr, pa, attention.
So Trump and South Africa, they've had some problems, they've not had some good terms. And the only time that a Western country starts having problems with you, it is when you are running an agenda that does not make them feel happy. You only need to run an agenda that makes them feel happy, so that the both of you can be able to be at peace, you can be able to live better, you can be able to work better. Like they want, the people they can manipulate, the people they can tell them go right and they go right, the people they can tell go left and they go left. Here in Africa, South Africa is one of the most developed countries in Africa, and South Africa is almost becoming like the United States and many other Western countries, and therefore South Africa is the only country that the West right now has failed, to actually manipulate. It is very difficult for them to manipulate South Africa the way just South Africa is. Of course, we have other countries that have decided to stand out and all that. But again, South Africa has been one of the countries that makes their own decisions by themselves. Despite being the country that has the white people within their boundaries, they cannot listen to the white people, or white people can't give directions or say, do this, and they do. No, that is why they live a life that they make decisions. There's these countries, white people have always been the ones making decisions for them. But in South Africa, things are different. People in South Africa and the government in South Africa, it makes decisions for itself, by itself. When they came up with the law of land expropriation, in South Africa, the white South Africans have very large piece of lands in South Africa. Now, how did they acquire the large pieces of lands they have in South Africa? During colonization, white Americans were grabbing lands, and South Africa is just one of the countries that white Americans used to grab lands, large piece of lands. But in South Africa, white people remained in South Africa. A good number of white people remained in South Africa. So the biggest lands, the huge lands they were grabbing, they still have it even today. But now, where I find a problem to agree with the white Americans in South Africa is the fact that they claim to be the owners of the land, yet colonization happened. You do not claim to be the owner of the land when colonization really happened. And during this colonization time, lands of the black people were taken by the white people, And Africa is not an indigenous land for the white Americans and the white people. You know, Africa is not their real home. It is not their real home. These are black people's real home. You know, if an African American comes back to Africa today and takes a land or grabs a land somewhere, we can say maybe there is no problem because their ancestors were here. You know, but if a South African, white South African comes and start claiming the ownership of the land, it sounds somehow, let me say, somehow funny. Yeah? Because remember very well, you are not an African. You are a white person. You came to Africa, maybe you might have happened to existed in Africa or to find yourself in Africa because colonization happened. And during colonization, lands used to be taken from the black people. Therefore, all the white South Africans who are having big lands in South Africa, they don't have to claim the ownership of those lands. And that is why Julius Malema has always been supporting expropriating land, and he has been against the white Americans with big lands, and they're trying to make the black people in South Africa look like kids, you know. We're going to talk about something very huge. We're going to talk about something very wonderful. And I hope you pay attention, because we have to break these things down and we have to call them out, you know. That is what we should do. That is what we have to do right now, right here. Now, my first question to you: do you think Donald Trump, the president of the United States of America, claims, do you agree with him? Do you really think by him saying that he's not going to attend the South African G20 summit because he accused South Africans of human rights abuses against white minority? You know? Now, let's talk about this. In South Africa, we have the whites only town in South Africa where a black person cannot, should not, and must not step there. It's a white only town in South Africa, in the land of the black people. South Africa belongs to the black people. South Africa does not belong to the white people. White people in South Africa, they came as invaders, especially those who are in South Africa. They came as invaders. They were invading South Africa. You know, they came to steal in South Africa, to take the resources that belong to the people of South Africa. And, you know, after colonization happened, some white people remained in South Africa. And that is how they got their lands and all that. So South Africa is not a land to the white people, you know. So if there are people who should respect, they should follow, and they should listen to the instructions of the other people in South Africa, should be the white people listening, following, okay, and stepping onto the directives and instructions of the black people, because the land of South Africa belongs to the black people, you know. But them claiming that South Africa is their home, claiming that the land they're owning in South Africa belongs to them, it is very shameful. I don't think that one needs to be happening. So let's talk about America saying that South Africa is committing or abusing, okay, human rights. Between the United States of America and South Africa, which country abuses human rights the most? Look at how the country of America is doing to many countries out here. Look at them, what they're doing in Iraq, supporting as other countries to fight other countries. Yeah? Look at what is happening. Look at how they are trying to support like chaos and all that. They've funded many countries to support chaos. But my question is, why is it that these people always feel better? They always feel good. They always feel they're the ones, yeah, at the best place, at the right positions compared to other people? Why do they always feel like when they make a mistake, it is not a mistake? But when other people make a mistake, they take it as something very, very serious. They want to talk about it. They want to condemn you by how you made mistakes. They want to make you look like somebody who actually, somebody who is not good at all. But when they make the same mistakes, it becomes not a problem to them. White America or Donald Trump, yeah, abusing or maybe accusing South Africa of abusing human rights, it's an irony, you know? It's an irony. Why is it an irony? Because they are the same people that really abuses human rights. We've seen America abusing human rights, you know? We've seen it many a times by supporting chaos. We've seen it by supporting chaos so that it can be able to come and have what you have. We've seen it. America has really supported chaos. America has been a hypocrite many a times. And if the people who should be condemned of abusing human rights should be the United States of America. The problem that America and Trump has with South Africa is the fact that South Africa cannot work with America. South Africans are working with Russia. They're supporting Russia. That is why South Africa, they are on these BRICS. South Africa became the part of BRICS, and they decided to withdraw from them working with America and all that. Donald Trump is not boycotting G20 summit because there is a problem with South Africa, but it's because South Africa refused to work with him. It is because South Africa is choosing to work with Russia than choosing to work with the United States of America. It's because South Africa is choosing to support. What is this country that is fighting? It's choosing not to support Israel and supporting the opponents. So there is a problem. That is why during the European Union meetings, the United Nations meetings, when President Cyril Ramaphosa was talking about Israel and condemning the things that Israel are doing, his mic was cut off. Why? Because the US is supporting Israel, and that is why things like this are happening. Not because there is any other thing, but because you refuse to work with me. And I've told you time and again, America and these countries, they want a country that accepts to work with them, follow their terms and bases, their terms and conditions and all that. What do we want? That is what you have to do and all that. And because they've always been following this, they've always been wanting this to happen. If you deny, if you turn down their invitation, if you turn down their request, you become enemies. There is nothing serious that stops Donald Trump from attending the G20 summit. The only main thing, it is because Cyril Ramaphosa refused to work with Trump. Trump wants him to work with them and allow them to come to South Africa. South Africa are the greatest and the biggest miners of gold. You know that? And therefore, South Africa is building itself and growing itself because South Africa refused to be manipulated. South Africa makes decisions for itself. When South Africa says there's going to be a land expropriation, it means people who are going to lose lands in South Africa are going to be the white people. And therefore, Donald Trump knows that white people in America, in South Africa, they're going to lose their biggest lands they have. Maybe through these white people who are in South Africa, the white America is benefiting. And they know very well, these people, if they're going to be land expropriations, who are the people with huge and big lands in South Africa? Are the white South Africans. The white South Africans, despite living in South Africa, they are very much proud of themselves in a country that does not belong to them. They are very much arrogant in a country that does not belong to them. They have this pride. You can't tell them anything. You can't speak to them. That is why they are able even to build a whites-only town where if a black person dares stepping in that town, he can even be taken down or be unalived. So these are the things that we are talking about. Trump saying that South Africa is abusing human rights, it is insane. If it's about talking about human rights, Donald Trump should never even try to be the person to talk about human rights. He should never. Because we've seen how human rights have been abused, even in their own white people in America. Right now, Americans are crying because of the high costs of living, and the government does not care about that. And you want to talk about human rights? You're not fit to talk about human rights, He specifically cited the country's land reform expropriation policies as a trigger. The new legislation that makes it easier for the government to expropriate land, including without compensation in some areas, as part of addressing historic inequalities. Trump labeled the summit as being held in South Africa as a total disgrace. So he wants to say that this one is a disgrace, that this one is not something that should be happening. So I don't really think that there should be something that like that, you know. But Trump really needs to understand one thing. He really needs to know that South Africa is a country that of its own, a country that really needs to take care of itself, a country that should be independent. Yeah, that is what Trump needs to know. South Africa is a country that is very much independent, a country that focuses, runs itself. Okay, so he doesn't need to be coming in and want to be given authority over a country that is already built, a country that is grown. You know, it's not like how they are manipulating all these other countries and all that. Because if we're talking about atrocities, if we're talking about genocide, America should not talk about genocide. It shouldn't be among us even the countries that are talking about genocide. Shouldn't be among us the countries that are talking about atrocities. Shouldn't be among us the countries that are talking about abusing human rights, because they are on the front line committing genocides, committing atrocities, and abusing humans' rights. Okay? So I don't think Trump should be part and should be among us the people who are talking about abusing human rights. Okay? So what I want to say is that South Africa should continue living the way it's living, joining BRICS, because we want African people who want to cooperate with Africa or have cooperations with Africa should be people who are willing, and should be people actually who are really working to make sure that if we are having a cooperation or we are having a business doing together, all of us must benefit. You gonna benefit, I'm going to benefit. All of us must. It should be a win-win situation. Yeah, America definitely is not willing to have a win-win situation with African countries. Yeah, that is why many African countries would choose to work with other countries and not work with America. That's why South Africa choose to enter BRICS and work with Russia and many other countries, and not with the United States of America. You know, so Africa needs to grow. Why? Because Africa has a lot of resources and a lot of things. Therefore, we shouldn't be allowing other people to come into our countries and try to make decisions for us and all that. White Americans living in South Africa, they should in fact start going out of South Africa, because they are in South Africa because they came and they colonized Africa. You know, they colonized Africans, they colonized South Africans and all that. Though they're not the same people who colonized South Africans directly. Let's maybe talk about their ancestors. But again, white South Africans should not be making decisions for Africans, should not be making decisions on behalf of the South African government. You know, they shouldn't be having a say to the South African government. You know, if they want to be in South Africa, let them be in South Africa, but be in South Africa and follow the rules of South Africa, because South Africa is an African country with a head of state who makes decisions. Okay? That is what we need to know, and that is what we should have and keep in mind. Yeah? So Trump does not have any other reason to be able to maybe leave or go out of or leave the boycotting the G20 summit. Yeah. But what he's trying to do here is to try and like he has some problems with South Africa, because maybe he might not be able, he was not able to actually have a cooperation or business to do, or cooperate, like them having these, what do we call, working together. He wanted to maybe work together to be given permission to enter South Africa and do whatever they want to do, but they didn't actually got that opportunity. So that is why they've had problems with South Africa. South Africa, on the other hand, they disagree with America on many things, and I think that is the reason as to why the man would always try and want to just talk about the things he's talking about, human rights abuse and all that, land expropriation. Of course, a country should be having land expropriation, because the land belongs to a country and they have say over their country. If they decide today all white Americans should leave the lands in South Africa, it will happen that way, because this is a home for the black people, not a home for the white people. White people can choose to go to their countries, they can choose to go to their countries. We don't get hold of the white people like they're getting hold of the black Americans. They don't want the black Americans to leave, because if the black Americans leave, they are dead. Yeah? Where if white people leave South Africa, South Africa will not be dead. In fact, South Africa is being built by Africans more than how it's being built by the black people, by the white South Africans. Okay? Tell me what you think in the comment section. I will do my best to make sure I read all the comments and give a response where possible. Africa is home, and anything that concerns Africa concerns me and you as black people. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're watching me for the first time, for the 10 subscribers, I really do appreciate you so very much. Okay? Now, until next episode, peace be with you.